Welcome to 1985, the year Reagan convinced us morning was happening in America while we were all busy figuring out how to program our VCRs. It was a simpler time when a good synthesizer riff could solve any emotional crisis, when MTV still showed music videos between their groundbreaking programming, and when having big hair wasn't just acceptable, it was basically mandatory. This was also the year 8 artists managed to burrow into our collective consciousness with songs that perfectly captured the beautiful absurdity of the mid-80s. You know these tracks. They're the ones that come on the radio now and suddenly you're 16 again, wearing something that seemed like a good idea at the time and feeling very, very serious about everything. And yeah, okay, fine. Technically, these aren't all one-hit wonders. A few of these artists had other hits, but come on. Does anyone actually remember Jack Wagner's deep cuts? These are the songs that became their entire cultural identity, whether they liked it or not. So, buckle up, Buttercup, because we're about to take a trip back to when earnestness wasn't ironic, when every emotion required a power ballad, and when the line between profound and ridiculous was basically invisible. Fair warning, at least half of these songs are going to be stuck in your head roughly till Tuesday. See what I did there? USA for Africa, we are the world. Nothing quite captures the optimistic delusion of 1985 like cramming 46 celebrities into a room and convincing them they could end world hunger through the power of synchronized swaying. This wasn't just a song, it was a cultural moment that somehow made Kenny Rogers and Cyndi Lauper seem like natural collaborators. The whole thing was peak 80s charity theater. Everyone looked directly into the camera with the intensity of hostage negotiators, while Harry Belafonte conducted the proceedings like he was organizing a very musical UN summit, and in the middle of it all, there's Michael Jackson just being Michael Jackson, which at the time still meant something completely different than it would later. But here's the thing, it actually worked. The song raised millions, topped the charts worldwide, and for about 15 minutes made everyone believe that pop music could literally save the world. Spoiler alert, it couldn't. But man, we really committed to that fantasy, didn't we? Sometimes I miss that level of beautiful, misguided confidence. Jack Wagner, all I need. Here we have Jack Wagner, living proof that being attractive on daytime television was basically a golden ticket to the recording studio in 1985. The man spent his days playing a doctor on General Hospital and somehow parlayed that into a legitimate music career. Only in the 80s could soap opera credibility translate so seamlessly into soft rock stardom. Wagner delivered this track with the kind of earnest intensity that suggested he'd been personally wounded by love and was now sharing his pain with America's shopping malls. It was the perfect soundtrack for every Orange Julius romance and J.C. Penney food court breakup.
I wasn't looking for true love, but now you're looking at me.
The man understood his demographic, and you know what? He actually had chops. This wasn't some vanity project disaster. Wagner could genuinely sing, which made the whole crossover thing feel less ridiculous and more, well, slightly less ridiculous. The 80s were all about beautiful people doing beautiful things, and sometimes that actually worked out for everyone involved. Harold Faltermeyer, Axel F. Leave it to a German composer to create what basically amounts to 4 minutes of synthesizer having an existential crisis and somehow make it the most recognizable instrumental of the decade. Harold Faltermeyer looked at every cheesy keyboard preset available in 1985, threw them all together, and created pure auditory time travel. This track didn't need lyrics because it was the lyrics. You heard those opening synth stabs, and your brain immediately supplied Eddie Murphy is about to solve a crime while being charming and slightly reckless. It was the sound of competent authority with a sense of humor. Basically everything we wanted from our action heroes. The genius was in its complete shamelessness. Faltermeyer wasn't trying to make art. He was trying to make the sound of 1985 in its most concentrated form. Mission accomplished. This song is basically musical Velcro. Once it attaches to your brain, good luck getting it out. Animotion. Obsession. Animotion. The band that looked at the entire new wave movement and decided what it really needed was more leather pants and dramatically applied eyeliner. These folks treated every 3-minute pop song like it was a life-or-death emotional crisis, which, let's be honest, was exactly what we needed from our music in 1985. The song was pure synthetic emotion delivered by people who appeared to have been designed by Patrick Nagel. The video was basically an instruction manual on how to look intensely at things while Fog machines worked overtime. It was completely ridiculous and absolutely perfect for its moment.
You are an obsession. You're my obsession. Who do you want me to be?
But underneath all that posturing was actually a solid hook. The track managed to capture that very specific 80s feeling of wanting to be dramatic about absolutely everything, especially romantic feelings. Sometimes the best art comes from taking your emotions way too seriously, and Emotion had that covered. John Parr, St. Elmo's Fire, Man in Motion. Here's John Parr delivering the kind of inspirational anthem that could power a small motivational speaking tour. This song convinced an entire generation that being young and having feelings was essentially the same as being literally on fire. Parr sang it with the kind of earnestness that suggested lives hung in the balance, which, considering it was the theme song for a movie about gorgeous 20-somethings having beautiful problems in Georgetown, was appropriately dramatic. The movie itself was peak Brat Pack theater. Emilio Estevez, Rob Lowe, and the gang playing recent college grads discovering that adult life requires more than perfect cheekbones and emotional intensity. But Parr's anthem made their quarter-life crises feel like they deserved a full orchestral arrangement.
Growing up, you don't see the writing on the wall.
This was peak 80s emotional architecture, designed to make you feel like the protagonist of your own movie, preferably one where all your problems could be solved by staring dramatically into the middle distance. The track worked because it didn't wink at the audience. No irony, no self-awareness, just pure emotional commitment to the idea that your feelings mattered enough to require soaring vocals and keyboard swells. Sometimes what people need isn't sophistication. It's permission to feel like their personal drama is worthy of a movie soundtrack. And honestly, sometimes it is. Murray Head, One Night in Bangkok. Only the 80s could take a musical about chess, and somehow extract a legitimate club banger from it. Murray Head took this completely absurd premise and made Bangkok sound like the most exotic, dangerous place on earth, which it probably was if you were a sheltered chess player looking for adventure. The song was like musical tourism for people whose idea of international intrigue came entirely from MTV. All mysterious Eastern influences and vaguely exotic imagery, packaged in a way that made global chess tournaments seem like settings for spy novels.
Bangkok, Oriental city, and the city don't know what the city is getting. The creme de la creme of the chess world is a show with everything but you, Brenna.
It was culturally questionable in about 15 different ways, but undeniably catchy. Head delivered the whole thing with theatrical intensity that suggested this chess match was literally a matter of life and death. Maybe it was, in whatever universe where board games required this level of dramatic investment. The 80s specialized in taking ridiculous concepts and treating them with complete seriousness. Let's be real here. Even to this day, when someone mentions Bangkok, don't you feel slightly uneasy? But you're not quite sure why? This song is why. Paul Hardcastle, 19. Here's Paul Hardcastle, the British producer who looked at the entire concept of pop music and decided what it really needed was more Vietnam War statistics delivered by a stuttering computer. Because nothing says dance floor ready quite like PTSD awareness set to a drum machine, right? The track was built around this hypnotic vocal sample that kept repeating facts about the average age of combat soldiers, while synthesizers provided what can only be described as the sound of anxiety having a panic attack.
Saigon. Wasn't really sure what was going on. 19.
It was simultaneously the most serious and most absurd thing getting radio play in 1985, which honestly was peak 80s in a nutshell. Hardcastle somehow managed to turn a documentary about war trauma into a club banger, which required the kind of creative cognitive dissonance that the decade specialized in. The song climbed to number 15 and became impossible to escape, proving that sometimes the most unlikely concepts make the most memorable music, though I'm still not sure anyone actually danced to it. The Honey Drippers, Sea of Love. And here we have Robert Plant, the golden god of Led Zeppelin, deciding that what his post-Zeppelin career really needed was to cosplay as a 1950s crooner. The Honey Drippers was basically Plant's midlife crisis set to music, complete with slicked back hair and a cover of Phil Phillips' doo-wop classic that nobody asked for but everybody secretly loved. This was Plant trading his mystical rock deity persona for something that sounded like it belonged in a malt shop, and somehow it worked perfectly. The man who once sang about stairways to heaven was now crooning about seas of love with the kind of earnest romanticism that suggested he'd been personally wounded by the concept of casual dating. The whole project was beautifully ridiculous.
Remember when we met? That's the day.
rock royalty playing dress up in their parents' record collection. But Plant committed to the bit completely, and the result was a #3 hit that proved sometimes the best artistic decisions are the ones that make the least sense on paper. Plus, it gave us all permission to take our nostalgic impulses seriously, which was very considerate of him. And there you have it, 8 perfect examples of 1985's particular brand of beautiful absurdity. These songs didn't just soundtrack our lives, they gave us permission to take our emotions seriously, even when those emotions were about chess tournaments or Vietnam War documentaries set to dance beats. Look, we can laugh at the synthesizers and the hair and the general atmosphere of confident ridiculousness that defined the mid-80s. But here's the thing, these tracks actually mattered. They created shared cultural moments in a way that's honestly pretty rare in our current fragmented media landscape. So which one's going to be rattling around in your head for the next week? Are you already hearing those Axel F synth stabs? Or getting unexpectedly emotional about earnest charity anthems? Drop a comment and tell me which 1985 one-hit wonder still has the power to transport you back to a time when everything felt simultaneously very important and completely ridiculous. And if you enjoyed this little expedition into musical time travel, hit that subscribe button. The 80s produced enough one-hit wonders to keep us busy until shoulder pads come back into style, which, knowing fashion, is probably happening right now somewhere.